Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today I am going to be doing a little bit of watercoloring. I'm not great at any kind of painting, so I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to share some beginner tips for stamping and watercoloring. Because I'm a beginner and those are the only tips I know, so maybe this will work out well. I didn't take the time to really plan out all of the things that I want to say, but the first thing we're going to start with, of course, is a stamped image. And I chose this little guy today. This is a Woodware gnome, of course. These sentiments say, being creative is magical, and you make me smile. And this is called Artie Gnome, and I will have him linked down below in case you want to check him out. There is a whole family of these gnomes in case you're not familiar with them. I have a previous one that's dressed up as a bee that I did in a card, one on a rainbow. There are a few. I really like Woodware stamps. They have broad, like bold images, bold lines, and they're kind of easy for me to color because they generally have just wider spaces to color in. So what I did is I cut down some watercolor watercolor paper. This is Canson XL watercolor. It is 140 pound. I don't really know anything about watercolor paper. What I know is that when it is buy one, get one for half off, then that's what I buy. And so I used to do a lot more watercoloring than I have lately, and I kind of go in cycles, but I really enjoy it. It's really fun, and you just kind of, if you're like me, clear your mind and put down some color and not really worry too much about it. I would say that once we get to the actual painting, you'll notice that I use my watercolors not like super flowy diluted watercolor. I usually go a little more not so watered down, a little more opaque. So we'll get to that in a minute. But so I went ahead and I stamped this guy. And if you have a stamping platform, what you'll want to do is use your watercolored cardstock with a stamping platform. Mostly it's because this paper is textured, and so you may not get a super great image the first time. You may have to go back and restamp in some areas depending on how much texture your paper has. So this one I stamped twice, and I used VersaFine Onyx Black for stamping. If you don't know if your ink pad is compatible with watercolor, you should just be able to flip it over. Both the VersaFine and the VersaClair say on the back that they are perfect for using watercolor to color stamped images. So you need to be sure, just like you want to make sure you have the right kind of ink for your alcohol markers, you have to make sure you have the right kind of ink for watercolor mixed media applications. So that's what I used. And I do have, this goes in my MISTI. Sometimes I'm stamping really fast and not pulling off the stamps and cleaning them, so I keep a little piece of paper in there just to soak up some of the ink. Today I am going to be using Derwent Academy. I love the Derwent pencils. I have these Derwent watercolor paints. I will link them below if you're interested in checking those out. I also have their watercolor pencils and the Inktense blocks and some other things. And so because these are in a tube, what I did is I purchased the little pans, and until I was looking at this, I didn't realize that they existed about a year ago. You can get the little pans that are empty, and I think these are half pans, and you can fill them with your watercolor paint and then just let them dry and use them like you would a normal store-bought watercolor thing. Watercolor set. So the fun part about this though is that I have no idea which colors these are. So once one of these reds goes empty, I have no idea which red it is that to replace it with, but I'll figure that out when I get there. This is just a tin from some other Derwent product that I took the pencils out. I have them in a cup or a container, and I reused this. These, a lot of times, these little pans will come with magnets so that you can stick them in a tin and they'll kind of hold themselves down. So that's what I've got. I only have, aside of these, I have some of the really inexpensive that you would get at like your local craft store set of 40 different colors that are already in the pans. And so to me, these are really great, and I can tell the difference in the quality when I paint with them, but that's really kind of my whole scope of expertise, is the cheap ones versus the little more expensive ones. And so the other thing that I have here is a hardboard. Now, I don't know that I really need this, because I don't know that I'm going to be putting a ton of water down. But the second that I don't do it, it's going to bow, and I won't be able to control it. So basically, if you add a lot of water to your paper, it'll bow. And of course, if you're using paint, then the paint isn't just going to drip down to the sides or into a valley. So I'm just using regular masking tape. You can use washi or whatever you've got on hand. This paper I did cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So if there are any issues with the sides, then I can cut it down a little bit. I don't think I'm going to be painting the entire background, so I think that this amount of this tape kind of going into the image is not going to really be a problem. Excuse me. The other thing I have is my heat tool, and so I have this handy. I don't know that I'll use it. I'm pretty kind of old school, but if I get a lot of water and have a problem, then I'll stop and I will dry a portion or all of the image so that I can continue with it less swampy. So that I'll just set over here. And if you want to start watercoloring and you don't want to spend a lot of money, I definitely would suggest that you do something as easy as buying one of the Crayola 6-color trays that you can get at like Target or probably anywhere, and using those. You can definitely blend them. So I started out with a really old set that was like that. I think I still have it, but it will at least kind of give you some practice and see if you really enjoy it, and if you want to purchase, you know, a larger set, or, you know, something different, unless you want to go all in and buy super fancy ones right away. Then you should do that. So not only do I have my paints here, let's see, but I also have a little palette. So in case I want to mix anything or pretend like I know what I'm doing, I can do that. And I have two sources of water. I have a small swamp. So this is where I'm going to rinse my brushes between colors, and then I have some clean water, and hopefully it'll remain clean for the most part. So I'm trying to figure out where to put things so that you can see some of it, and it should be good. So I guess the last thing that I want to suggest is to get a couple brushes that aren't the least expensive. These brushes are Royal and Langnickel, but you can get them in a large pack. They have many tiers of brushes, and a lot of companies do, but you want something that is going to maintain its shape. It's not going to fray, so that you at least have a little bit of control over what you're putting down. These ones, let's see here, I'm not sure like the sizes or types, but yeah, I think that's what I have to say about brushes. Oh, that's it. I bought a giant bag of like 36 brushes that were all different, you know, sizes and types, and would get overwhelmed. So I tried to limit myself. So I grabbed a couple flat ones and a couple, these are considered watercolor because they're pointy, so they hold the water up in the bristle, and then you paint with the end of them. So I just try to pick 3 or 4 and just try not to soak them in water. You just want to rinse them and dry them off. So if I decide to change brushes, I will put the rinsed out brushes just over here on a paper towel so that they're handy. All right, and so I'm just going to start with this smallish brush. And the only thing I really know about what I'm going to do for this guy is that he has some skin that's showing on his nose and his hands. So I'm going to go ahead and deal with that the first. And from there, it really is just having fun doing the hair, and the hat could be any color. So that's why I really chose this, because I don't really have to think about color very much. So I am going to start, I think, with some of this guy. I'm just going to use this other brush to pick up some water. You can definitely also use a spray bottle for this part, but I do it this way sometimes, and just get up some color. A lot of times as I'm just getting the chunk of paint wet and taking some paint off of it, I will come in here and lay it down in the little tray, just because I can tell how much I have, and it kind of gives me a better idea of the color that's going to be coming down on the paper. So this color seems good to me. If you want to, you can definitely water it down to dilute the color, but you can also add some other color if you like. So I'm going to put a little more water, and you can, I don't know if you can see it, but it will just dilute itself a little bit. There we go. And so when I watercolor, I try not to use a lot of water, which is probably counterintuitive, but I just like to lay some color down. And so, like, for me, this is even too watery. So I'm just going to give it a second. The other thing that you want to consider is that if your paper is wet, it's going to absorb the paint easier. So I have seen a lot of people who will paint a section with just clean water. That way the paint kind of absorbs easier once they put it down. And of course, like I mentioned before, if you feel like it's too swampy for whatever reason, definitely you can grab a paper towel or your heat tool. Your heat tool might move it around a little bit though, so you want to consider that. You don't want to move your swamp all over the page. All right, that looks pretty okay. So what I'm thinking about doing is deciding on what color the paint in this image is going to be. So this paint tube, these splotches of paint, so that I know what colors to kind of stay away from for the rest of the image, because I think I'm going to be using that quite a bit. Let's see, so just rinse this guy off a little bit. I'm not sure what color his hat would be. I'm thinking that I'll use purple for the paint though, which is either this one or that one. So I'm going to put these two aside. I'd really like this blue color as well though, but maybe I'll do his hat in blue. Okay, let's give it a shot. Also, keep your fingers out of your wet paint. I don't know why. I would think that I have to say that, except that I just put my finger in the wet paint. So even though I am going for a not too wispy, a little more opaque kind of painting, it still is watercolor, so it is going to do whatever watercolor does. I'm pretty okay with that. The whole thing fell out, or popped up. I'm gonna put some more water in here using this other brush and this other water. And really, I felt like the paper fiber was going to start fraying, so that's the only reason I knew I might need a little more water. This is the look that I like, and I know that that's not a traditional look for watercolors. So. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, I think, and, oh, let's see. Just a couple little spots here. Okay, so the hat is blue. So what are the patches on the hat? Are they green? I think green's good. Which one? There's so many choices. Oh, look at how much blue water I still, or blue I still have in this brush. Yep, no, it's clean. Okay, let's decide. I think I'm gonna use this green right here that's closest to me. That seems like enough. A little more color. So we have a little bit of watery paint all the way across there. Go in again with some that is a little less wet. I guess that maybe is a beginner tip also, is that, you know, when I was a kid, 100 years ago, I would, you know, really painting was very much like this motion. And it's hardly what painting is at all. Unless maybe you're painting a wall. It really is kind of putting down color in the area that you want it. Whether that's a really light, watery, wispy color or a more opaque color. It's not kind of a back and forth sawing motion like I thought it was when I was a kid. Not bad. All right. Come in here. Cool. All right. So next, I think let's do his shoes. Which are probably gonna be this brown color or that brown color. Or maybe they should be yellow. No, that's just silly. Go back into the clean water. Add some to this brown right here. This is one where I don't know how dark it's going to be. Just going to put some over here. Yeah, that's brown. So there are some parts of the shoes that are the shoes and other parts that are paint. And I guess I have to decide which is which. So let's go with this a little too much water, so I'm gonna sop it up with a dry brush. You could go in with a paper towel if you wanted to. Whatever you've got. See, it's like it was almost like it was never there. Of course, that brush isn't dry anymore, but that's okay. Gonna give that a second to set. Just caused the same problem over here, but I think it's gonna be okay. So now there we go. That might bleed a little bit, but that's okay. That's what I was looking for. I'm not sure why. I like the colors to be more opaque. But I do. It could be that I should just use acrylic paint, but acrylic paint is not as forgiving as watercolor paint. I think that being able to put paint down and just sop it up, or you know, dry things part way, I think is it's just, for me, an easier medium to use in that regard. And maybe that's why maybe I have a problem with needing a little more control over the medium. So there's the shoes. And I could definitely, maybe I'll mix some of this brown with whatever color this is. Lighten that up a little bit. And then I'm going to go in and do the brush. Does it look like the same color to you? It looks like the same color to me. Just pull it through further though and make it a little more watery. Seems good. Alright, now for the hair, and then I think almost everything else is paint. Oh, there's a little bit of a sleeve over here that I didn't get, so maybe that should be this blue as well. Cool. Okay. I guess this tube is not all one color. Anybody know what color his hair should be? This color? It's definitely a different color than the brown that I was using. So I'm gonna grab some water. Ooh. Got a whole big old fuzz. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Here, now I'm going to go ahead and just put some water directly on this section. It's kind of light and just where I want this paint to go. And it'll just absorb, take the paint easier to those areas. I don't usually do that. But it comes in handy sometimes. Okay. A couple little dollops here that look a little bit not great. They're still brown on this. So, well, I'm going into the brown anyway, so I just wanted to take most of the water out, but some of these little drips, I'm just going to put a little bit of water on, and it'll just soften them up just a little bit. Oops. Most of them I like though, so I'm going to keep them. Okay. Now, oh, I missed this part of the shoes. I don't know if I'm still in the frame. Just put a little bit across the bottom here. Get a little bit more with just the tip of the brush, not a lot of water. And come back across. All right. So, the last thing that we need to do here, I think, is before we add the paint and splotches, this little guy's paint tube needs some other color on it. Just do a little bit of this blue. No. This is interesting. Not getting anything. There's some water, so should do something. All right, so now decide which of these purples I'm going to use. I'm assuming, yeah, this one. Try this one. It's blue. Or is it just blue still in the... Yeah, it's definitely blue. So let's try the other one. I know I said not to leave your brush in the thing, but I just did. If this doesn't work, then I'll use red. Yeah, that's purple. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit strategic about this first part of getting the paint color down. Forgot that I left the pan over there. Better put this down so it doesn't fall over. So the last thing I'm going to do before I let this dry is put a little bit of paint down on the card base that I'm going to be using. I want it to kind of, this is just regular, the regular cardstock that I use for card bases, and just wanted to put some of the same color back here so it gives that look of getting paint everywhere, like in that picture. I'm going to cut that down, and I'm assuming it's going to just fit right in here. Put some more water too if I wanted to water it down some more. I'll just water right across here. So I'm going to let that dry and I'll be back. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and hit it with the heat gun. This part. But really this part. Oops, it's hot. So that was easy. Just going to pull him up. Oh no. Fabulous. Don't forget to mind your angle when you're taking off your tape, just like I almost didn't do there. And didn't do right there. Let's try this way. All right, just gonna cut this thing down. I want it 4. Gonna pull this little piece of paper off and hopefully it doesn't make it worse. That seems fine. I'm gonna, so it's 5.5 now. I want it to be 5 1/4. So I'm just gonna cut 1/4 of an inch off of the top here. It's got plenty of room. And I want this to be 4, so I think I'm going to take about 1/8 of an inch off of both the right side and the left side, just to kind of even it up a little bit. Glue does not want to come out. Whoa. Now it wants to come out. Alright, so I'm going to put this down fairly quickly so it seeps into the backing rather than the watercolor part of the paper. And I think I'm done. I hope I gave you a little bit of insight into some beginner ideas or tips that I have. Please take a moment to like this video and set those notifications so that you know when I go live and also when I upload a new project. Thanks so much for watching again. Don't forget, safety first.